Hey there, and welcome. Today, we're going to dive into some of those little details of professional English. The kind of thing that can make a huge difference when you're talking to global clients or writing that big email. These small shifts can be a total game changer. So let me ask you this. Can one tiny letter, just a single S, actually change how people see you professionally? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But honestly, sometimes these small details are exactly what separates good communication from great communication. That's why today we're going to break down just three little words that can have a massive professional impact. We'll look at how they're commonly used in Filipino English and then see how that compares to what you'd typically hear in, say, an American business setting. Now, I want to be super clear about something. This is not about what's right or wrong. Filipino English is a totally valid and powerful dialect. What we're doing here is simply adding another tool to your communication toolkit, specifically for those international situations where matching the American standard can give you a real professional polish. Okay, you ready? Let's open up our first case file, the word equipment. You hear this one everywhere, from the office to the factory floor. So, you might say something like this, and look, it's perfectly clear. We all know exactly what it means. You need more than one new thing for the office. But if this was in an email to a global partner, it might just make them pause for a second. And here's why. In standard American English, would actually say new equipment. The S just disappears, even if you're talking about 100 new computers and desks. So what's the deal with that? Why does the S go away? Well, it all comes down to this idea of a non-count noun. Think about words like water or information. You wouldn't say one water or two informations, right? Equipment works the exact same way. It's the whole category of stuff, so you don't need to pluralize it. All right, let's move from objects to people. Case file number 2 is all about the team you work with, your staff. Again, this is a super common and understandable sentence. It gets the point across. The team is out to lunch. But just like with our first example, there's a different way you'll hear this in American English. So instead of the staff's are, you'll almost always hear the staff is. Whoa, wait, why is? Well, because the group is being treated as one single thing. Now, if you do want to talk about the individuals, you've got a great workaround. The staff members are. And the grammar rule behind this is something called a collective noun. Words like team, family, or committee, and, you guessed it, staff, all refer to a group as one single unit. That's why it often takes a singular verb. You're talking about one staff, one team, one group. Okay, let's get to our third and final case file for today. This one is about something we all need from time to time, advice. You can just picture it, right? Your mentor sits you down, gives you a bunch of great tips, and this is how you describe it. It feels totally natural because you got more than one piece of advice. But I think you're starting to see the pattern here. The standard American English way to say this is simply good advice. It doesn't matter if it's 1 tip or 50. And just like before, if you really need to count them, you can use that handy little phrase, pieces of good advice. And what's the reason? Well, it should sound pretty familiar by now, because we've come full circle. Just like our very first word, equipment, the word advice is another one of those non-count nouns. You can't have 3 advices. It's an uncountable idea, so it never gets that S. Okay, that was a lot, I know. So let's do a quick recap, just to make sure all of these new tools are ready to go in your toolkit. So here it is, all in one place. For equipment and advice, just remember, they're non-count nouns, no S at the end. Easy. For staff, think of it as a collective noun, a single group. So you'd say, the staff is. And don't forget your secret weapons. You can always use pieces of, or staff members, when you need to talk about specific numbers. At the end of the day, these are subtle things. They're not huge, glaring errors. But mastering them, that shows a real command of the language, a high level of attention to detail. And that's something that really makes you stand out and sound incredibly polished in any international business setting. It really makes you think, doesn't it? These 3 words are just the tip of the iceberg. The English language is full of these little keys that can unlock doors to clearer, more powerful communication. The only question is, what other keys are you going to look for next?